First of all, I'd say that vocation really has to do with a sense of calling or purpose or meaning in life. We're trying to have the whole Augsburg community, students and faculty and staff, trying to get them to think about their life here, but actually their entire life, through what I would call a lens or a vocation or a vocation kind of framework. We're trying to get people to move from an understanding of themselves as single and solitary and alone to a framework where they see themselves or think of themselves in a vocational sense. And if you're just starting out here at Augsburg, you're going to hear a lot about vocation. We're going to make many attempts to have you become well acquainted with it. You're probably not going to get it all at once.
Now, how does my family work? Well, because without a friend, without my wife, or, another friend, I can't discern my vocation. I don't have anybody to talk truth with. And a friend is also somebody that is willing to talk the truth to you. And the only person that's willing to talk the truth to you is somebody that cares about you, that really cares about you.
Family is a really big part of my vocation because they're the people that are there supporting you in everything that you want to do. And especially in the Swedish culture, my grandfather was from Sweden, and so the whole fiddling and being a part of a family with the Swedish culture is a big part of my life, and it's really fun.
I definitely think that it's an ongoing kind of quest to find out, where do I fit, what am I meant to do, and really being open to a lot of things. And I think that when you're talking about vocation, it's never defined, and that you're constantly looking, and as you develop in life, you explore different parts of your vocation, and looking at when someone is married or when they have a family, that becomes part of their vocation. And now as a single person in that life, that's not specifically part of my vocation, but being a great friend and being a very active family member is part of that vocation. And then as I move on and looking in different careers and reaching out, like right now I'm working with a lot of students, so I think a big part of my vocation is connecting with those students and helping those students find their gifts. Whereas I think as I move on and I continue now, and I'll go as more leadership roles and looking at now my goal is to more on a more organizational level and not working so grassroots, and how that vocation keeps changing. And I think being open to that is very important because you really learn to grow and you learn just, wow, how many abilities that you have and that you continue to explore.
I like what you said about how you found out what you could use your major for, because I am a mass comm journalism major, and I know what I want to do with that. I know that I want to go into television, but going through the first couple of days, I kept thinking, how can I use my major to help these problems? And it's great that I know about them and that I want to help with them, but how can I use my vocation and my major to do that? And so many people kept reminding me that if we don't have people in the media that are aware of the problems and that care about the problems, other people can't find out about them. And if we don't have people on television making this their passion and being such an advocate for human rights and affordable housing, lower income families and things like that, then the problems can never be solved because we won't know about them. So I think that was really the biggest thing for me, was people kept reminding me of that.
I had no clue in high school, didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what college I wanted to go to, and then coming to Augsburg, I was the most undecided freshman ever, and I changed my major like 4 times until finally last semester I discovered urban studies. I decided to try out the classes, and I really, really like it. And so I feel like Alyssa, like it's a process. Eventually you always get to where you're supposed to be. And so I don't regret, like, I was an education major for a while. I don't regret my education courses. I took chemistry the fall of freshman year. I don't regret that. So I don't know. I feel like everything happens for a reason, I guess, and everything kind of led up to discovering where I'm supposed to be. So.
I'm a Zamboni driver here, and I don't plan on doing that for the rest of my life, but it's still part of my vocation.
I think one level I look at that as just pure privilege to be able to spend one's days with students and with colleagues is about as good a gift as anyone could have, because virtually everything you do can be related to living out your life in a kind of dynamic, growing sort of way. My favorite quote is, healthy people are growing and helping other people to grow. And I guess I could transpose that into a person is incredibly lucky if the setting for your vocation is where that's what you do day in and day out, is essentially get paid to keep growing and to help other people to grow along with you.
I think it has a lot to do with kind of the holistic view of vocation, in that it's not just your job, it's not just your faith, it's everything. And so it's really important. I believe in obviously kind of the physical well-being. I love working. Augsburg has a great facility that I can use in the morning. I come and I work out, and from there going to my job and being like, these are the people I'm going to interact with today. And then from there going home and talking to family, talking to friends, and interacting with them, and knowing that it's not just the 8 hours of the day that I'm in my office. It's not just the hour that I'm working out. It's not just the couple hours that I'm with friends and family. It's all of that together, and putting that together and saying, wow, none of them is more important than another, so it's important to spend time with each of those.
I've always been drawn to teaching. I love my subject matter, which tends to be the history of the Christian church, but I love it not just as sort of something that is merely to be taught in terms of facts and dates and names and places, but I think what draws me to teaching is that I find that when I connect students with that tradition, I see them changed and transformed in all sorts of remarkable kinds of ways. And some of my enthusiasm, I hope, is contagious and gets passed on to my students. So that passion that I have for the history of Christianity, I think that flows from this strong sense of calling I have to teach it. And as a result, having that calling, maybe, in my better moments anyway, allows me to become a more effective presenter of that tradition in the classroom to my students. One of the things I think that this whole concept of vocation is trying to do is also to get you to sort of ask different questions. A lot of people very naturally come here and ask the question, well, what's in it for me? What am I going to major in? And maybe how much money am I going to make? Or what am I going to do when I'm done? And those aren't necessarily bad questions, but I think we want to also say that maybe those questions are a little premature.
Well, I have to say right off the bat that being a student doesn't end. That I think for me and maybe many others who are in education, part of the joy is you're still learning. You don't have to take tests so much or write papers, but that opportunity to learn continually. And I think it's part of this calling that we have that I think the Lutheran colleges make a very good point of emphasizing, which is we're supposed to use our reason, we're supposed to cultivate our reason to understand creation.
I think one of the things I really liked about Augsburg is the sense of community here. I've really enjoyed how professors will stop you in the hall and just ask how you're doing, and if you go and talk to them in their office hours, they will keep you there forever. It's wonderful because they just want to know about you as a person. And students, I get so many emails from students just saying, oh, I saw what you did and that's great, and it's just so amazing. So I think trying to do that for other people, because I know how many people do that for me, that sense of community and being a part of Augsburg is a huge part of my vocation.
My name is Jenita Pace, and I worked at Augsburg College for 3.5 years in the financial aid office. And I was asked to say a few words about how my vocation and my faith are connected in my work. And I'm an evangelical Christian, and so my faith is in the Bible and the Word of God, and because of that, it affects the ethics and how I do my work. Because I believe the Bible is the authoritative Word of God, I study it and then I apply it to my work and to how I raise my children and to my marriage. And so when I'm working in the environment that I'm in, I try to do my job to the ethical standards that I believe in. And it also affects how I raise my children in the sense that I want them to grow up knowing the Bible, and I want to grow them with love and respect for other people and for the Word of God. And so that's how my vocation and my faith are interconnected. And because of this faith, there are others in the Enrollment Center that have this as well. We've started a Wednesday morning Bible study where we get together and pray and share our faith and how it's affecting our work and our vocation.
When I think of my vocation, certainly teaching comes to mind. I've been a career educator. I've always taught. But I think since I've learned about servant leadership and since I've begun to practice that philosophy, my teaching has taken on a whole entire dimension. Every time I walk into the class, it ceases to be about me and becomes all about the student. I really try and leave whatever sense of ego I have at the door and make sure that everything I'm doing in the classroom is about the student, for the student, serving the student. That's what I believe is to be, that is what I believe is my vocation, especially here at the college.
My vocation is really to get out and be with people and really to help people kind of find their gifts and find their talents. And I've just really seen that in connecting with the community when we're being involved, when we're out on deliveries, when we're delivering food, but also, more importantly, is inspiring the students here at Augsburg that are really involved to have them connect with the community and encouraging them and saying, wow, you have these abilities, you have this knowledge, you can make these connections and you can do great things. And so I really see that as basically my kind of goal and my kind of skill that I use is really teaching people how to use their abilities to reach out to others.
What we'd really like to have people asking are things like this: who am I? Why am I here? What are my gifts? What are the needs of the community? Who is God? And how does God fit into a sense of calling? And a lot of people ask me questions, especially about that God issue. Does that mean Augsburg is going to coerce you into one kind of belief or one sort of religious type of dogma? And I want to assure them that the God question is going to be something they're going to have to consider here. We want you to think about God, but we're not going to tell you so much what you have to believe or what you ought to believe, but we do think that what you believe is important. And we hope that during your time here at Augsburg, as you think about your calling, you'll think about, well, what does it mean to have God as the one who's calling me? And how does that fit into how I see my gifts and the needs of the community? So it's important to factor God into it, but we also want to stress, too, that there's plenty of room for discussion around that God issue. So in summation, I hope people have been able to see in this video that vocation is not just one thing, but it includes a number of different items, and some of the themes we've stressed here is family, your major, your studies here at school, your work, your life, certainly your faith and your values. All those things come together to form a sense of vocation. We really believe that this vocational way of thinking, where you're not only seen as a single solitary self, but you're seen now in a relationship with your larger community and with God. And that when you think vocationally, you bring these together, these items together, we think that makes for a much better experience here at Augsburg and also gets you off to a much better experience in life itself.